Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Memento Mori stats. I haven't figured all of it out yet. We've been having a conversation in my Discord, and I've been looking at it a little bit. We're going to talk about how you know what runes to put on what characters, and what the actual base stats do for the character, because they do change depending on character class, and you can actually see the impact of those stats in the game. So let's go ahead and dig in. So when you are in the game, the best way to see this is going to be to just click on one of your characters. Now, what's important for this video is that there are three different types of classes to understand if we are going to be understanding the base stats here. So you have the gunner class, you have the swordsman class, and you have the magician class right here, or it's called sorcerer in this game. So when you pull up the stats here, if you go to this little menu here, you get a screen that talks about potential, and potential is the stats of your character currently. So with everything equipped, this is going to be what your stats are. And the one thing you'll notice here with Cordy is that she has a little gunner icon next to dexterity, and that's because dexterity has a 1-to-1 correlation with attack for gunners. Some cases it's not 1-to-1, it's like 1 to like 0.099 or whatever it is. There is some rounding involved here, but you'll notice that because of the way this is done here, dexterity directly correlates to attack. You have evasion and crit as well that are at 39,063, which are also at half of the value of 78,000. So dexterity for gunner characters are all going to have more evasion and more critical because their base stat is dexterity, which dictates what their attack will be. Now, you do have other variations of this depending on the character. So, for example, Florence here, that is a warrior or swordsman class. Strength is a direct correlation to attack for Florence. You also get an addition of defense. And you'll notice here, defense is actually a 1-to-1 correlation to the actual strength as well. And then you have accuracy, which is a 50 correlation. So these are things you're going to want to look at as you are beginning to think about runes and think about your characters, because this is going to dictate kind of the direction you want to take your characters in the long run. The one stat that seemed a little bit separate from everything is stamina. So stamina seems to be not the main priority stat for all of the characters. So it just seems to be affecting HP and crit resistance. The sorcerer has a 1-to-1 for attack with magic, 1-to-1 with magic defense, and then debuff accuracy as well. So if you're wanting to land those debuffs, if you're wanting to actually have an opportunity to debuff the opponent, you are going to want to increase your magic. And there are a lot of people out there who are like, oh, I put on magic and it didn't affect my attack nearly as much as, say, an attack rune, right? When we are talking about different types of runes here. So you're going to want to prioritize the attack rune as number one, probably, depending on your character. And then you're most likely going to want to put on the primary stat as their secondary rune. So that would be a strength rune for a sword wielder, a dex rune for a gun wielder, or a magic rune for a magic wielder. And there's a variety of reasons for this, but particularly for magic users, it does seem like magic is more important, particularly when we are talking about landing debuffs on opponents, because you do have units like Modi here, where their attack is based off of the current magic that your character has. So it's one of her attacks here. I believe it is I might be missing, it might not be her. But some of the attacks will be like, your attack needs to have higher magic than the opponent in order to land this debuff on the opponent. So for some characters, you're going to want to go through and you're going to want to verify, this is going to be important for me. Magic's going to be important for this character. Florence is another great example. Florence is in my main kit that I use all the time. And the reason I think Florence is such a great example is Florence is a melee-based character, right? She's a sword-based character, but her ability is dictated by the amount of times you land critical hits. So Florence being a melee-based character, I may actually prioritize crit over strength for her just because she needs to land these critical hits. So my rune priority for Florence would probably be like attack and then it would probably be crit, and then it would probably be strength. You may arguably put a dexterity rune on her as well, but keep in mind, she's not going to benefit from that attack up from that dexterity rune. It's not going to benefit the broad swath of stats that she offers. So you really need to dive into what your individual characters are doing in order to understand kind of your rune priority. I think attack, you're always safe. Like if you're wondering what runes to get right now, I think attack is also always safe. I think similarly on the defensive side, HP is always safe. And the reason I say HP is always safe is because HP is always the universal mitigator, right? HP is always going to be, no matter what, universal for all characters. You don't need to worry about necessarily setting physical defense or magical defense if you are going specifically for like an HP build. Now for the runes in general, you'll see here they have the primary stats. Accuracy is something I haven't run into yet as something that I need. But crit and attack are two of my priorities right now. Magic as well, and now I'll be definitely focusing dex and strength. Even though it doesn't necessarily have the largest attack impact, I think focusing on what those characters are strong on is going to be good. I do think you could make an argument for HP, stamina, and speed. I think the three of these on the defensive side are probably going to be the most important. Speed in particular seems to play a very important role in this game. And I think a lot of players definitely lose matches because their speed. So for example, this is a great way to think about it. If you are running like a shielding character or like Fortina, and thankfully Fortina has quite a bit amount of speed, but let's say she didn't, if the enemy uses all of their attacks in the first round and then Fortina pops the shields, you may already have significant amount of damage to your team. And then the second wave of attacks may just be a couple auto attacks from the enemies, right? So because the shields only last one turn, two, if you're fully buffed on your Fortina, you may not get the best benefit out of utilizing those shields, right? So speed, very important for shielding units, probably number one priority again, but it's understanding these small details that are going to be really important. Similarly, for dexterity units, evasion is also really high for them. So you may consider setting evasion on your dexterity units because they already have very high evasion, right? Same with physical defense on tanky units. They already have high physical defense. But when it comes to physical defense and magic defense, I feel like you're always going to end up getting countered in some way. So I would always lean towards HP and stamina first, and potentially even speed before I kind of invested into either of those stats. Similarly, while we are talking about this conversation and talking about stats in general in this game, I do think it's important to talk about gear. And you'll notice here on my Cordy that I do have the dark and the light on all of my characters. And that's something that I'm beginning to work on, because when you do get this initial level, you get a very nice 1.5% here, which is small, right? But it's like the first big chunk of power that you can get on your character, and you don't have to invest a ton here. You'll also notice there's stats corresponding here as well, so you are going to be able to invest in stats. Now, further down the line, we are going to be getting specific pieces of gear that are going to do very specific things. So if we go to the index and we go to the gear index, you will notice that like we have the Metatron set, right? Which is going to give very specific buffs to the characters, okay? It's going to give Amleth buffs. It's going to give Amleth specifically buffs. You can go to like the UR set or the SSR set, and you can have like Satan's Demon Collar, which is going to have defense break on it, right? All of these gears are going to start kind of manifesting themselves once you do get to the upper levels. So these are also things to be thinking about, especially at 180, you have like the Astaroth set, right? So all of this is going to be more important as we get into the future. So understanding what the stat priority is for your units, what the rune priority is for your units, is going to be very important. And I may put together a list of stat priorities for units. I think right now the best thing I can do is show you guys like we did in this video, and you can make the decisions that are best for your account, your characters, and what team you are building. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys do like this Memento Mori content. If you do, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, and I will catch you guys later.